Okay, so here we are. We're going to be making some nutrient solution for a seedling, and I'm going to quickly go through my process on how I do it and the nutrients and additives that I use for all of my plants. And I use the Flora Nova. It's a 1-part nutrient, super simple, can't really go wrong. Just make sure that you follow your own experience with it. And as far as that's concerned, basically what I do is I go and I make a spreadsheet or write it down or whatever, what you're going to be using as far as your nutrient solution and the manufacturer's instructions. And I make sure that I'm below or on the lower side of what they recommend. So like for instance, they say a seedling, which is week 1, 400 to 600 ppms of the nutrient solution. In this case, that's for my Flora Nova. I'll probably put in close to 400, maybe a little bit less. Kind of depends on what my ppm of my starting point is, okay? And I'll show you that in a second. But I also use HydroGuard with every nutrient solution that I make. Okay, now everybody's gonna say, oh, HydroGuard, whatever. Do what you want, don't use it, use it. I use it because it helps stabilize the root system. And a lot of people also say to use a CalMag solution. I don't use this until I need to. And there are signs that will tell you when you need to start using this. But right off the bat, this is the first thing I will add. Then my nutrient solution. And then I'll get a pH and balance the pH out to 5.8. But the first thing you want to do is get yourself a TDS pen. And this will measure the parts per million or the ppm of your water or your nutrient solution. So mine is usually 100 something, so basically drop this in. And we're about 175-ish. So I know that I need to be able to add about 225 ppm of my additives and my nutrient solution to reach that 400 ppm. Now that ppm number, that parts per million for your nutrient solution, right here, I don't know if you can see that, if it'll focus, is your total calculation of your water. That means your starting point. Mine is 175. I don't want to go over 400 total. That's not 400 to 600 of your feed. That's everything in the water. So right now, what I'll do, I've got about there's about 2.5 gallons of water in here, almost 3, but I'm going to measure for 2 so that I know just by my calculations it's going to be less than what I actually need. And that's kind of how I do my calculating. I don't sit there and say, oh, what's 20% of 2.5 milliliters, and add that in to get my ppm. So the HydroGuard that I use, okay, is about 2 milliliters per gallon. All right, and I use, as I mentioned before, syringes with the milliliters on them. So I've already shaken up my HydroGuard. So I've got about 2 in there. So that means I'm going to put 4 mils in the water. And that's all there is to that. Now I know that 2.5 mils of nutrient solution per gallon of water to get me to that 400, 600 mark. And whenever you use the Flora Nova, shake vigorously. And I've got a video that will show you how I mix the material up inside so I don't have to shake it as hard. And it's weird because this always happens. This on no matter what Flora Nova product I use, it always seems to expand and come out the bottle. That clunking sound you hear in there is actually stainless steel ball bearings that I put in there to help agitate the solution. And like no other, here's a huge syringe with the graduations on it in milliliters, so I know how much I'm putting in every time. So stand by. Let me go ahead and get this mixed up. All right. I actually probably put a little too much in there, but I can dilute that with some regular tap water, and I use a regular metal whisk. Just get in there, stir everything on up. And I'll pull out my ppm, my TDS meter. Get that turned on. Drop it right in there. So we're at 529 for ppms. So a little bit more than I wanted to go, but I'm right in range. And I think that'll be okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to check the pH. As I've showed you in another video, I use a pH pen. Fire it up, drop the probe in. And we're about 7.6. So I know I need to use my pH down. So for about 2 gallons, it's usually, they claim 2 mils per gallon. So we'll start small. That's 4. Give it a good mix. Take our pen and drop it in. .8, 6.7. So it went down 1. So we'll add a little bit more. And it's easier to add small amounts. That was another 2 milliliters. Smaller amounts than it is to go too far and then have to bring it back up, like I showed you in the previous video. And once you get it all figured out, you'll be able to dial it in without, you know, having to do any kind of guesswork. But hopefully this is the only seedling solution I'll have to make with my whole process. All right, so let's dry off this probe. Get a fresh read. Drop it in. .4. So we need to go down just a hair more. Now this is so much easier than using your color charts and your drops. So I'm going to go about 1.5. Give it a good mix. Because a single drop of this stuff could actually push you right over that point and you'll have to go back up. Alright, let's see where we're at. Wait until the water settles because some of these pens are sensitive to water movement and give you a false read as well. We are right at 5.8. Perfect. That's exactly where I wanted to be. And that's all there is to it. That's how I mix my solution. Everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have their own methods. Got news for you. It doesn't mean you're right. Doesn't mean I'm right. But it also doesn't mean you're wrong. So without the arguing and do this instead of that, my method works for me. And I'm sure you'll find a method that works for you. But for now, that's how I mix my seedling solution.